Hello YouTube artist, I'm Kelly Renae and welcome to In the Studio. It's been a while since I did a color cube card with you, and I thought it would be an interesting one to play with my 2025 palette and see if I can get these nice rich darks here. Isn't this a beautiful card? I love the image of the suitcases. That would be really fun for my stackable project with something on top. So I want to play around with these colors and see what we can do. And today here is my little item that we're going to be painting, just because I think it's really cute, and I'm going to stick some leaves in here to make it look really nice for our subject that we're going to paint with this palette. I'm using my Princeton number 8 long round aqua elite brush, and I love it because of the point. The point's getting kind of worn. I need to actually buy a new one. This is my 2025 palette. I will link a video below listing the palette and where to find it. And then I am using a handmade sketchbook, and this is a little tiny one. Here's my hand. And what I'm going to do is do the colors on one side and then a little image. I've done quite a few of these with you so far. If you just search for color cube card, you should be able to find all of these that I've done with you. So the first thing we're going to do is mix the colors. And when I'm mixing the colors, I try not to use just straight out of the tube. So even though this one looks like my lunar blue, I am going to mix it with another color just to make sure that I get a nice mix. The whole point of this is to mix and not just use from the tube or use something close. I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to get it close enough to where I'm happy with it. I've got a little piece of paper here that we can use for samples. So the first thing that I want to mix is this blue color, and lunar blue is very close. Lunar blue or Payne's gray would be a great start for this because they aren't real blue. If you're going to use like an ultramarine, you might want to then use the color across from it, which is a complementary color, and that would be orange, and what that's going to do is gray it down for you. So I want to make a nice puddle of this so I can try it. And here it looks a little more purple. So what I'm going to do is add some of my Alonia Velvet color here. Oh yeah, look at that. It just turned it from that brighter blue to this nice dark blue. I think that's really pretty. I might need a little bit more red. Okay, that was an easy one. You can see here it's a nice dull color. It's exactly what I wanted. And it does have some depth. It's not just one color, which is nice. I'm not adding too much water to the mix because I want it to stay nice and dark. And this feels like Fabriano Artistico paper. It's very thick, very heavy. Okay, that's a really pretty color. I'm gonna splash just a little so that I get some values in there. Now, if you're new to color mixing, I would definitely write down your mixes either on this page or the next page, whichever you want to do. That way you're just, you know what mixes you used if you need this, if you want this as a reference. With all of my palettes, I do a color sheet like this, and that allows me to see what mixes I did so that I don't really need to mix with that. What I will do on here though is write that it's my studio palette from 2025 so that I know what colors that I used. Just a way of keeping track for yourself. So my next color is this color. I love this color. It kind of reminds me of yellow green. So that's where I'm gonna start, or I mean yellow gray. You can see it's a little too bright. So it's between a green and a yellow, so I'm going to add an orange and let's see what happens there. So let's get it on the orange side, and I'm going to add just a touch of green. Let's see what happens there. I'm looking for it to kind of brown, and did you see that shift? Let's add a little more green there. I just want it to become a little more ugly, if that makes sense. I'm going to touch a little bit of brown in there because I want it a little duller. Yeah, that looks great. When you're color mixing, it's great to know what the complement is, which is the color directly across from the color wheel. What that does is it will dull down your colors. It will either make it a little more brown or gray depending on where you are in the color wheel. And I use complementaries a lot to get the colors duller, to make them not as bright. That looks lovely. Again, splashing. Okay, this next color is really kind of an orangey brown. Think of it almost a burnt sienna color with a touch of brown to it, or even a little bit of blue. So let's start here with orange. And then let me touch into the lunar blue that I have just to dull it down. There we go. So see how that turned the color? Just a touch more blue. All right, let's have a look at that color. Still a little too orange, so I'm going to touch a little bit more blue. Ooh, that's nice. So you can see that that works great. Let me try my Van Dyke brown here. This is kind of a dark brown. It's really a neutral brown. And let me try adding some French gray or buff titanium. Let's touch just a bit of orange into there. You can see it's more of a milky coffee mix. It's pretty, but I think the first one's better. I can see I have a lot of water in here. I'm hoping that it's not too light now. Add a little more paint to this and see if I can get it a little stronger. I can tell that's too light. That's better. All right. This is a pretty palette. The next color here is like a charcoal gray. So you can see here that when I used that Van Dyke brown, that was quite nice. So I'm going to see about the Van Dyke brown, and it almost has a bluish look to it. So I'm just going to touch, I want to touch a little bit of the Sleeping Beauty and see what color that, ooh, that's nice. It kind of grayed it. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's pretty. So again, not as much water, so I need more paint. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a beautiful color. I don't really paint with grays, but I am loving grays lately. This is a nice rich one. You can see how dry it is because I want it to stay nice and dark. Splash. The final color on here, sorry I got my card on wet. The final color on here is like this army green. I mean, look at the color of that, and you can see it really well in the suitcase here. It's got a lot of brown in it, and the opposite color of green on the color wheel is red. So we're gonna try this bright green here, which is my green apatite. And we're gonna try mixing the Alonia Strawberry Velvet in there. Let's see what color it gets. Okay, it got kind of khaki-ish, a little more red. I want to take down the color a lot. Ooh, that's pretty. Let's see what that is. Okay, let's add just a touch of the French gray to it, or the buff titanium. You can see the difference here. It's just a little more mellow than that one. Let's try that. Oh yeah, that's pretty. Now I probably could have used the yellow gray, but again, I'm trying to learn what my palette will do for me. There's always several ways to get the mixes, and it's just really a way of playing to understand your colors and what your palette will do. That's why I love these color cards. They're great for that. Splash. Okay, now that we've got our colors, I mean, look how beautiful mixes those are. I'm really pleased with those. That's a little brighter, but that's okay. Watercolor normally dries a little lighter, but I'm loving the values of all of these together. It's really a fun dark palette, something that I really don't use. So now for our little lamb guy, what I'm going to use is this kind of color for him, because I really don't have a buff titanium in here. So what I'm going to do is put some of this color, but then let it see in the lighter areas, it's quite light. And then the little bark here, because you can see it's next to a tree, so I thought I would use that. And then the leaves, I want to use these three colors, maybe a little bit of that added in there just to give it a nice brightness. So let's play with those a little bit. I'm going to start with the little lamb guy. My gosh, is he cute? A little more water on my brush. I'm just going to splash some in there. And add just a little bit of darkness here in his ears, like a dark ear. A little bit on his head there. So cute. Okay, I'm going to do the bark now. I will come in and add some darker bark when at the end there. I want to leave the white of the paper so that I can leave some bark texture. Try not to get too close to him because he is wet and he will take this color right into him. Splash that. Well, that's what I'm going to mix up a little bit more of that brown mix. So that was the orange and the blue. Okay, the leaves up here. I want to start with that green one. So that was the green and the red together, and a little touch of the buff titanium. I want to add a couple colors to each leaf. Love this dark blue. I think those two look pretty together. Now you can see that they're mingling. That's because the paper's wet. And if you're having a problem with yours looking too stiff, make sure that you are mixing when they're wet. And notice that I don't just pull straight down either. I kind of bounce my brush up and down. That gives it more texture. And to me, it makes your painting a little more interesting than when you have perfectly sharp edges there. Wow, is that pretty? For the little leaf here, I want that really dark color in there. So this color, I want it to be right up in here. That's pretty. And a little bit over here. I'm gonna throw some of that green in there. Trying to get it mixing while it's wet. Love that. Splash. For this leaf here, I really want to try to get it just the blue color. So let's see if we can get it nice and blue. There we go. I want to add some of that color, the lamb color. That's a pretty color. Look at that color combination. That's kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to use this brown mix here. And really anything on my palette now for the bark or for the branches. I want to get them nice dark where the leaves come together. Get some of that dark as it goes into the tree here. Pretty. I also splashed those, but before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of darkness to this little trunk here to define the lamb a little better. Just keep touching dark. I'm going to touch a little bit of that blue up here. I'm going to make the lamb a little darker on the inside here where his legs overlap one another. Cute. And there we go. Look how cute that is. Here's the beautiful leaves and all the rich colors. Isn't that pretty with that real dark in there? Love that. There's the tree trunk. The little lamb. The lamb, I've got to wait for his face to dry, so I'm going to add some dark eyes. That's cute. I'm going to soften this little edge right here. Just water. There we go. Oh, look how cute he is. Oh my gosh, so cute. And there are my colors. And this was Color Cube Color 257. These were the colors. And there's what we created. If you were inspired by today's Color Cube card, please leave me a message. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't subscribed, please click the button. And as always, thanks for watching.